Hi, this is János. It is real world audio, and the real cats now are out in the garden. The weather is really fantastic. So, what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about music, and I'm looking at a pile of records that I listened to yesterday night. And we had a friend over. It was Nelly's boss, and we listened to records for about 3-4 hours together, even though he just came over to talk stories, have a dinner, and see our new place because he hasn't been here yet. But we ended up just listening to music for hours and hours. And so basically this episode is about a few of my thoughts of the comparison between Grande and the Voice of Lancelot. So how much you are missing out from the Voice of Lancelot if you are going for Grande. And it should not be any kind of comparison if we are thinking about like commercial loudspeaker prices or commercial loudspeaker world. If you compare let's stick to Focal, for example. If you compare the Grand Utopia to their affordable bookshelf speaker lineage, the difference between them is just monstrous. It's like day and night. And here we are talking about the same thing, the same kind of difference between these loudspeaker types, that sort of difference that's between them, and yet sound-wise, the very cheap, very affordable baby Grande really held her ground. Just it was really astonishing. And one of the things which is quite peculiar is that here downstairs in my room they are set up next to each other, and of course you can't tell which is the one that gives the sound, and that's what happens when you have good speakers. You cannot just point, okay, the sound is coming from there. No, it's like there's like things that are happening, and they're happening at their own appropriate acoustic spaces. But even then, even with good speakers, if you have like set up a bookshelf speaker and next to them you have like a big floor standers, if you are a practiced audiophile who has, it's not your first loudspeakers that you hear in your life, but you have maybe like 10 years of experience or more listening to high quality loudspeakers, then you can quite sometimes easily, sometimes not so easily, but you can always pinpoint after 5-10 minutes of listening which speakers are playing in the room. And that's not happening here, because when Grande is playing, they project a sound that is as big that you always think whatever loudspeaker is playing, it must be the Voice of Lancelot playing, because the sound is so huge that the soundstage of Grande extends to the area where the Voice of Lancelots are. So let me just flip this around. Okay, so we are there. So you see, that's where Grande are, and next to it there's Voice of Lancelot there and there, and they project a soundstage that's wider than the edge of Lancelot there and about here. So this is the soundstage size, like it, in most cases it's around here. But of course, if when I'm watching movies and things, if it has sounds like in a typical Netflix show that I'm watching, there's the effects like a car honking in the neighborhood. It's like it's coming from out there, and children's playing outside. Then it's like children. It's coming from out there. That's how it's imaging. And then last day I had an experience where kids were playing outside and shouting their heads off, and I thought it's coming from the movie, from the soundtrack, and it didn't sound any different compared to how the kids in the movie were screaming and shouting their heads off, and it came from the same, same spot. And that's what both of them can do actually, when there's like sounds coming from the street, or like a car starting or a bike starting. Yeah, it's you can't tell if it's the neighbor starting a bike or it's in the movie. But well, of course, if you are incredulous about that, it also depends on the movie, how well they recorded the sound. If they didn't record it properly, I can notice that it's not the neighbor starting the bike. But if it's recorded really well, I really had the experiences that, and it's not just once or twice, but happens almost every day, that like I hear a dog barking, and I have to think that, okay, this is not real because my neighbors don't have a German Shepherd, and that's a German Shepherd barking. And when there's like a dirt bike that's in the movies, and it's like wah, 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 and they're revving the dirt bike, then I can tell, oh, okay, that sounds like a small Honda bike, and none of the guys around here have small Honda bikes. So it's not just a bike, but I can tell explicitly which model is the bike. It's so recognizable. Or when there's like a door slam, and the door is slammed, it doesn't sound like a sound effect. It sounds like actually someone slams my door in, and that's how the sound. And I can tell it was not my door, because I know that my door makes a little bit different sound because it's a different material. But it's fully recognizable, whether that was like a plastic frame door, or was it a heavy wooden door, or it's just kind of creepy, and both of them do it. And yeah, so I think this was one important thing that I can share, that this is something that the baby can do as well. The big one is absolutely freaky with this, and 100% live realistic, but now the baby, as it's breaking in, I had this effect with the children that I thought it's coming from the speakers, because that's how it exactly sounded on the speakers as well. So anyway, now it's breaking in. I'm still only 2 weeks into the break-in, so I still don't want to make any formative conclusions about it, especially given that I haven't even experimenting with the height. And this is the only room I have tried them in. I haven't tried another room yet. I still have to go through driving it with different amps. So there's a lot more to explore about the sound before I can really tell you informative remarks on the limits of its ability. But right now what I can tell you is what it can already do. And in yesterday I had a feedback on this, that although we were listening to the Voice of Lancelot, at the end Nelly thought that, oh, I thought we've been listening to Grande the whole time, and she's a golden ear, and that's just something, that's a feedback to all of you, that's how close in tonality they sound, and that's how close they sound in their ability to fill the room with sound. And that's the absolute strength of Grande that I can already talk about, is that even though it's just a baby speaker, look how tiny and diminutive that is, but it does fill the room with sound like a giant 300-liter cabinet does. Actually, it's not the free air volume, that's how much airspace it takes up from the room. The free air volume of the big one is around 240 liters, but including I can't talk. the port horn and the cabinet material plus the crossover on top and the compression driver, it takes up over 300 liters from the air in the room, maybe 320, 350, I don't know, something like that. So it's a lot. But this tiny baby has the ability to throw as big sound, or I would say by 90% or 80% as big sound as the Voice of Lancelot does. And if you say, okay, now we found out it's only 80% what the big one can do. Guys, okay, it's 80%, but when you have speakers of that size, they produce like 30% or even less of the room filling of the Voice of Lancelot. So if I put in like bookshelves, or even if I put in the Mirage over here, I don't know if I told you guys, but after I lent my speakers, the Mirages, and they were not home for over a year, when I got them back exactly a year ago, last Christmas, I couldn't listen to them more than a week because the sound was completely, entirely bloody collapsed compared to the Voice of Lancelot. It was like a day and night, and I just like, okay, they just need to warm up, whatever, but they warmed up and the sound was still collapsed. I just still couldn't believe it. And that fellow has two 8-inch woofers. So it's not that it lacks the ability to move air, and it has like 90 liters free air volume, so it's like over twice Lagrange's. And it still cannot do a fraction of filling the room as the Lagrange does. And that's not because the Mirage is an outdated junk speaker, because yeah, it's like 25, 30-year-old already. But every, or I will say almost every loudspeaker cabinet out there that's for the audiophile persuasion, they do that, what the Mirage does. And the Mirage is actually quite commendable when I compare it. When with my buddy, Irvin, we were really talking about it, and he was very impressed with them. But that's a story for another day, because Eddie was asking that if I would compare the Lagrange to a commercial speaker, what price tag could I put on them compared to the market, and how the market prices their loudspeakers. And that will be a different video. So for now, I just wanted to say that these little babies, what they can do and what almost no commercial speaker can do. Of course, there are some that can do, but not at this price range. No, it's way out. When they can throw a big image like that, and also like a big and natural image with good tonality and sound like real life, that's even rare. So I'm not saying there are no speakers like that, but I'm saying that you can spend a lifetime and not hear any speaker like that, any commercial speaker even. Yeah. So anyway, enough of me talking positive things about my little baby, but I want to share something more, one more thing. You remember that recording on the organ that I put up as the only sound sample so far with the Lagrange, and we listened to that organ on the Voice of Lancelot yesterday. And then after that, Nelly said that, oh, I thought it was Lagrange playing the organ. They sounded so similar. But then I asked, but did you notice any difference between the two? And she said, yeah, I noticed that you could hear the air. So when they did the organ recording, you could hear the room, the whole acoustics. That you feel the air around you, and that's what the Voice of Lancelot did, and the Lagrange didn't do. So that's how Nelly noticed. I can hear the air now. What's happened? Why do I hear the air? And I told her, yeah, because we are listening to the big boys. And then she said, ah, okay. And there was one more thing that Nelly noticed, is that the she could feel the floor as well. So La Grande, it produced a big and credible organ, but and the bass was really going deep and shaking your guts as well. But she didn't feel, and I didn't feel either, that the floor is moving. So with the Voice of Lancelot on the organ, we could also feel that the floor is moving. And it's not just like I feel the floor resonating, because even with the La Grande, the floor is resonating. So the pedal notes on the organ do make vibrations in the floor, and even the carpet moves. But with the Voice of Lancelot yesterday, it felt as if I had meters of stone floor under my foot, and it transformed our wooden floor, which is a sprung wooden floor, so it's flexible, it's breathing, so you can dance on it. It's not a hard bouncy something, so it's really flexible. Plus there's a carpet on it, so acoustically these things behaves like a soft floor, right? There's no hard reflections, and when I play organ with La Grande, that's how I get it, that there's a soft floor beneath me. And yeah, the resonances affect the floor, but I still have the impression that I have a soft wooden floor beneath me. But when we were listening yesterday to the Voice of Lancelot, it felt as if this floor was not wood under me, and if it felt like there was no carpet, but it felt that there's like at least a meter thickness of stone under my foot, and I felt stone-like resonances, how the stone resonates when I am in a cathedral and they are playing the organ notes. And I have never ever experienced this in my life with other audio systems, no matter how big subwoofer or whatever you throw at it. Yeah, it can make the bass sound really oppressive or really thick or really whatever, but to have this feeling, to give back the cathedral acoustics so well, that you hear both the high extension extending like in a cathedral, and you feel the air moving, to feel it's just I can't even describe that feeling any better than that. But also to have the foundation, to feel that okay, I have a meter, like a yard of stone under my foot, is just that was like really exhilarating. And of course the other difference was that the Voice of Lancelot can play the organ quite a bit louder than La Grande can. La Grande can play it at a volume that will tell you that it's a credible representation, that you can enjoy it. I don't know about you, but me and Nelly, both of us, did 100% enjoy the organ representation of these babies. And but it was not the same sound pressure level as a live organ. I think even with the Voice of Lancelot, it was not the same sound pressure level as a live organ, but I have to admit that yesterday I had a lot of urging from Nelly not to play it as loud as I would have preferred to, because it was already 11 p.m. when we were listening to the organ, and Nelly was really worried about the neighbors. And even though we have excellent soundproofing, but you know, sounds below 30 hertz go through any kind of soundproofing, they will be able to hear it. So anyway, I think even if I play them at full volume, it might be still a few dB SPL below what a real organ does, but not so much far below that the experience is drastically different. So even yesterday, I don't know what peaks we were hitting 105 dB, maybe 107 dB peaks, something like that with the organ, with the big boy. But already at that level, I had that feeling that I have when I listen to a live organ in a live cathedral. The acoustics was there, the air was there, the size was there, and the feeling that I'm sitting on not sitting on the stone floor, but sitting on a chair on a stone floor, that was both rendered with the big boy. And that bit that I'm in the actual cathedral for real, that was not there with La Grande. So if I would have been blindfolded with this one, it was spookily similar to how you hear it in a cathedral. It's really close to the original, and with this one I could still tell that we are not in a real life cathedral, but it does a rendering of the church organ better than any high current, solid state driven power subwoofer amplified system I heard ever produced. And I'm not saying that it makes more bass or shakes the house more. No, not at all. But what it does is refinement, naturalness. And if that's your point, then these babies are just astonishing, beyond astonishing in that regard. And some of you don't like organ as an instrument, but I produced it because that's quite possibly the hardest bass instrument to reproduce. And also for organ as a test record, it has both the highest notes and the lowest notes. It has tremendous clarity demands, speed demands, so it has extreme demands from both loudspeaker and amplifier. And that's why it's a pretty good material to test the limits of your audio system. So these are my closing notes for now. Have an awesome day. Bye bye.